it.
Thank you, Governor. Absolutely.
Howdy, Lubbock, Texas. You know, we got so many people here, we couldn't have them all out front, and so we got all these great fans right here in the back of us. Today is surround sound in Lubbock, Texas. Listen, I want to thank Representative Dustin Burrows for everything that he does. You have a representative who goes to Austin, Texas to fight for Lubbock values and wins every single day. And I don't know where they are now, but I also saw Senator Perry. I want to thank him for being here. And there is a state representative from a different region of the state of Texas, Representative Cook. Thank you. You're covered in light. There's no way I can even see you right now. But Representative Cook is here. Listen, I want to start out by telling you something that is incredibly important, a couple of very important Lubbock facts. So one thing that was new to Lubbock this year was the fact that this is the first year that Lubbock is part of the Texas power grid. And I know there were some people who were fretting, what's going to happen with the Texas power grid? Are going to make it through this year better than we did last year? The answer is absolutely yes. Of course we're going to make it through better. And let me tell you why. Contrary to the fear-mongering by my opponent out there who wanted to make it sound like Texas was going to crash again, he had no idea exactly everything that we did with the state legislature to make sure the power grid was and is stronger than ever before. I signed 14 laws making the power grid better. We added more power generation than ever before. We winterized the grid. We kept reserve power on hand. Last year, there were only about 60 parts of the infrastructure for the natural gas system providing power to our grid. Only about 60 facilities were protected as critical infrastructure. This year, more than 2,900 were protected as critical infrastructure. I could go on, but the bottom line is this. We were able to generate more power at the height of power demand this year than was far more than enough to take care of the height of power demand during Winter Storm Uri. I was not going to let Lubbock go without power, and so we survived this winter storm with no loss of power from the power grid at all. The power grid is better, more stable, and more reliable than it's ever been in the history of Texas. So let me tell you something else that I want you to know about the Lubbock area. And I have to assume that there may be a few people here who like Texas Tech University. Guns up. So listen, first I'll tell you a funny story that I've heard that you probably have heard Kent Hance tell you before also. And that is Kent Hance, as you may know, the former chancellor of Texas Tech. He was telling me a story. You know, one thing that people who go to Tech do when they see each other, it could be on campus, it could be in Lubbock, or it could be an airport like in Dallas or something like that. They see each other and say, guns up. And what happened is in a Dallas airport, you heard about this? So, okay. In a Dallas airport, a couple of Tech fans saw each other, and they said, guns up. And immediately they were descended upon by TSA agents. They didn't have any guns other than the fighting spirit of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So you tell me, how is the Texas Tech basketball team? Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm proud of you. Let me tell you something that I worked with Dustin Burrows on this last session. It didn't get across the finish line. My goal is to make sure that it does get across the finish line last time. And when I say this, where is Dustin? He's way in the back. So, Dustin, why don't you come up here for just 1 second? Dustin Burrows and I, we began working out a plan. He may be way too far back. Never mind. He's coming. Come on up. So as Dustin knows, Dustin and I were working on a plan. We have a vision for the future of higher education in our state. And we want to make sure that all of our universities are the best universities. First, I will tell you this. When I became governor, the entire state of Texas only had a handful of what are categorized as Tier 1 research universities. I promised that I would double the number of Tier 1 universities. And we were behind states like California, et cetera. So as of today, Texas has far more than doubled the number of Tier 1 research universities. And as we gather here in Lubbock, Texas today, the state of Texas now has more Tier 1 research universities than any other state in the United States of America. One of those universities is Texas Tech University. However, there is more that we can do to elevate Texas Tech University. And so what Dustin and I began working on during the last session, that we got great support even from the chairman of House Appropriations, and something that I think we can continue to work on and pass this next session. I want the state of Texas to create an endowment for Texas Tech University of $1 billion to elevate the university even more. Dustin and I will go to work on that. As high as Texas Tech may have ranked now, you're going to be ranking higher. We want the university to rank academically as high in the polls as your basketball team. That is my goal.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Melissa, I'm here today to make one thing perfectly clear. Republicans are going to win in 2022. And we're going to win for a very simple reason. I'm confident and certain why we're going to win, and that's because we are going to show the public the contrast between Republican policies versus Democrat policies. And candidly, it's never been easier than before now. And because, it used to be they were Democrats, and then they became liberals, and then they became progressives, and now they are who they took. Yeah, you said it. They are socialists. So it's Republican policies, conservative policies versus socialist policies. And let me tell you something. We are not going to let these big government socialists destroy our great state. So take, for example, one category, and that is jobs in the economy. Working together with folks here in Lubbock, Texas, working with people across the state of Texas, Texas is the #1 state as the best state for doing business every year that I have been your governor of Texas. Also, Texas has ranked #1 among all American states since I've been governor for leading America in the most new economic development projects. One of those projects this past year, I was here to announce right in Lubbock, Texas, Leprino Foods. Leprino Foods, if you don't know, they are the leading maker of mozzarella cheese. And so I want everybody to leave here. After you enjoy Kegel's barbecue, I want you later on to go buy a pizza that has cheese that likely will be made soon right here in Lubbock, Texas. But very, very, very importantly, the heartbeat of business in Texas is not these large companies. Most of the businesses in Texas are small businesses, like Kegel Steaks. Give it up for our host today, Kegel Steaks. So because small businesses are so important, we want to emphasize all the things that we did to support those small businesses. And I'm proud to tell you that as we gather in Lubbock today, Texas ranks number one among all states in the United States as the best state to start a small business. So what does all this stuff mean? Let me tell you a couple of things that it means. If you look at the way that you, the folks in this room, as well as our fellow Texans, are powering our economy, what it has led to is a massive expansion internationally in Texas's economic rankings. Before COVID, Texas, if it were its own country, we would have had the 10th largest economy in the entire world. Hold on, because it gets better. Because as we gather in Lubbock today, Texas now has the 9th largest economy in the entire world. If you're curious who we surpassed, we surpassed Brazil. So Texas now has a larger economy than Brazil. We have a larger economy than our neighbors, Mexico and Canada. We have a larger economy than countries like Australia. And Texas has a larger economy than Russia. Pretty amazing. So that makes me more powerful than Putin. And to foreshadow a point that I'll be coming back to later, interestingly, both Putin and myself are dealing with border-related issues at this particular time. More about that later. But let me tell you the real importance of all that we are doing economically, what it means to the people of Lubbock, what it means to the people of the Panhandle, what it means to the people of everyone across the entire state. As we gather in Lubbock today, more Texans have jobs than ever before in the history of our great state. When concerned citizens brought to me books that were being used in elementary school, teaching our kids about critical race theory. This is disgusting. It's anti-American for this reason. What they're trying to do is rewrite the history of the greatest country in the history of the world. And they're trying to redesign what our future looks like. And to make it even worse, they are trying to divide people on the basis of race and then pit them against each other. That's not only contrary to the United States and our Constitution, it's also contrary to what Martin Luther King Jr. himself taught us, and that is we are to be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. So this last session, during the regular session, the legislature began to address the issue by passing a bill that I signed into law that prohibited the use of critical race theory in a few subjects in a few grades. And I signed it saying this is a good start, but it was not good enough. So I put it back on the special session. And during the special session, they passed, and I signed another ban on critical race theory. I can tell you this. And that is altogether, we now ban the use of critical race theory in every subject, in every grade, in every public school in the entire state of Texas. And I am running for re-election to ensure that our schools will never be invaded by the use of critical race theory. Now, I want y'all to know, listen, I'm a big supporter of public schools. I went to public schools my entire life here in the great state of Texas. And as governor, I provided more resources to our public schools than any governor in Texas history. But even with that great support of our public schools, we need to come to grips with the fact that at the end of the day, there is no government program that can replace the role that parents play in the education of our children. So many parents are getting so frustrated that their voices are not being heard as it concerns both the education of the children as well as the health care of their children. And I am running for re-election to pass a Parents' Bill of Rights that will restore parents as the primary decision maker of their child's education and health care in the great state of Texas. one thing we can all agree upon, and that is parents matter as it concerns the future of our state, and we will put parents in the prominent role they belong in. Now, when you look at the radical leftist agenda, one of the most dangerous things they do and stand for, they actually endanger our communities. Dustin Burrows was up here talking about one of those issues, is what's called defunding the police. Defunding the police does more than just take money away from police. Seattle and Minneapolis and Chicago and New York. And you know what? In Texas, the attitude was not under my watch as governor. Are we going to sign a law that will defund any city that defunds police? Is now fully funded. But listen, as dangerous and radical as defund the police is, there's actually even something far more dangerous that the radical leftists stand for. Ended catch and release, and it began building the border wall. When Biden took over, he eliminated not only all four of those policies, he also imposed open border policies where they were not going to enforce the laws passed by Congress against anybody. And the consequences were predictable. And that is, under Biden, we've seen maybe an all-time record, certainly a multi-decade record, and the number of people coming across the border illegally. But it gets worse because they're coming not just from, as Kamala Harris would like to let you think, the 3 or 4 countries in Central America. People are coming from more than 150 countries across the entire globe, including, get this, people are coming across our border from terrorist-sponsored nations. And you know what? Our commander-in-chief for the United States does not care about the fact that potential terrorists are coming across our border. As the president in charge of national security, he hasn't gone to the border, hasn't done a finger to lift anything to make sure that we have border security. That is reprehensible. And Biden may not do it, but you know we are Texans. And if the federal government is going to do it, Texas is going to do it ourselves. So what we did, Texas is now doing more than any state has ever done in the history of the United States of America to secure a border. With the help of these legislatures, they provided $3 billion in funding for just the next 2 years for Texas to deploy 10,000 National Guard as well as Department of Public Safety officers who are arresting illegal immigrants coming across the border, trespassing in Texas, and not catching and releasing, but putting them in jail for trespassing in the state of Texas. But also, with their help, the help of legislators, they pass and assign 15 laws cracking down on the heinous crime of human trafficking. We will not stop. We will not stop until we eradicate the horrific crime of human trafficking in Texas. But is that the DPS and National Guard, they are arresting these human traffickers coming across the border. And maybe something even more dangerous, they are arresting smugglers of the deadly dangerous drug fentanyl coming across the border. You need to understand what this fentanyl is. 2 tiny milligrams of fentanyl, which is really smaller than 2 grains of salt, is a deadly dose. Texas law enforcement this past year seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in Texas, California, Illinois, New York, and Florida combined. This is deadly dangerous stuff and must be stopped. And despite, get this fact, of the age group 18 to 45, the leading cause of death last year was not COVID, was not cancer, was not car wrecks. It was fentanyl. Despite that leading cause of death for that age group, Biden doesn't care. Biden hasn't lifted a finger to do anything about it, but Texas has. With these legislators, we passed a new law that I signed that makes it a felony to manufacture or distribute fentanyl in Texas. We are not going to tolerate fentanyl in Texas. And now, Texas is building our own border wall to secure our state. I am running for re-election to ensure that no radical leftist will tear that wall down as he said he would or open our border. We are going to continue to secure our border in the Lone Star State. But it's more than public safety that's on the ballot this year. Freedom itself is on the ballot. Listen, as both your Attorney General and your governor, I have fought for your constitutional rights, including your First Amendment rights. Let's go back in time, back when I was the Attorney General of Texas. On the Capitol grounds, you will find a monument about as high as where that beam is right there. And on that monument are carved into it the Ten Commandments. And there was an atheist walking across the Texas Capitol grounds who saw the Ten Commandments and did not like it. And he filed a lawsuit in federal court trying to tear it down. And my attitude was, not as your Attorney General was I going to allow the Ten Commandments to be torn down on our Texas Capitol grounds. That case went all the way to the United States Supreme Court, where I personally argued that case on behalf of the state of Texas, and we won, and that monument still stands. The reason why issues like this are so important is that while I have fought for your First Amendment freedom of religion, Beto has threatened your First Amendment freedom of religion rights because he came out and said that he would eliminate the tax-exempt status of churches that refuse to bow down to the woke, radical leftist agenda. I will not let that happen in our great state. To the contrary, I signed a law that would prohibit any official at any level from ever shutting down our churches, denying you the ability to go to church and worship God Almighty. And remind me, what comes after the First Amendment? And you know that Beto has threatened to come and take your guns. And you... Say it again. There you go. This woman right here said out of her cold, dead hands. I got news for you. Your hands are not going to be dead. They're not going to be cold because you're going to keep your Second Amendment rights, because I have signed more than 20 laws protecting your Second Amendment rights, including making Texas a constitutional carry state. And including making Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state, preventing anyone from coming and grabbing your guns. Well, I can tell by this crowd today, we're with a group of people who love the United States of America. You all know full well that we live in the greatest country in the history of this entire world. And I think I can tell from the attitude of some of you all that some of you all here today, you may actually love Texas a little bit more than you love the United States of America. There you go. God bless Texas. Let me rephrase that. God has blessed Texas. I bring this up to emphasize one very important last point. It's really the lead takeaway I can give you today that you need to fully come to grips with. There are people running for office this year who do not love America the way that it is, who do not love Texas the way that it is. They are running for office to redesign Texas in their own image of some radical leftist agenda. Let me tell you something. I am running for re-election to make sure those people never hold office in our great state. And let me tell you this, without a doubt, we are going to beat Beto and win Republicans up and down the entire ballot. Together, we will keep Texas the greatest state in the greatest nation in the history of the entire world. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.
Excuse me, everyone. We're going to start a